So we got Santos, the city you're watching right now, the tsunami that, you know, just came into the city, destroyed part of its coastline, killed a lot of people. But the thing is that this is gonna start happening a lot now.
So hi there, Dave Dobbs here, aka David Field. Never know Rich really what I am anymore now. Kind of feel Dave Dobbs is dying a little bit at the moment. But nonetheless, here I am, talking about Nibiru. I want to show you the latest flyby that correlates with all the other flybys I've shown so far before I really get going here, because it's getting it was taken about the 24th of June. And it's getting a bit old story now, and I was going to make a video about it before, but I said that this thing would fly by, the next flyby after the penultimate flyby, which also flew by exactly when I said it would, even though people say it did, and everything else like that. And you know, really, I've done my very best to try and show all these flybys, and I'll take you through the whole thing. For those who haven't seen it, I'll do a really quick version. If you want to watch the original, I'll put a link to it. But let me just show you this latest flyby anyway.
Look at that. That is absolutely fantastic going down. Thank you for viewing, guys. Fantastic. Fantastic. It's time to believe now, guys. Time to believe.
I've got to be honest with you, I just don't know what to do anymore, because can you imagine when I put that sighting up in the one that came in on the 20th of December 2015, and I'd made videos before that saying that this thing would fly by, saying it would flood, saying, you know, like sinkholes opened up on the M42 in England. We had the worst floods. We had incredible floods here in France. You know, loads of cars literally washed away. And we were very close to it then. We were really close to it then when we went past it. All the sightings, like the tens of thousands of people putting all these pictures up one way or another, showing these incredible sightings, everything fitting together so perfectly. Just a sequence of sightings that I put together showing the 200-day cycle that we were being deceived, that all this massive build-up of all these asteroids and comets that have been rapidly coming through are all actually just the same one thing that comes around every 200 days. And that's what I've been trying to demonstrate in my videos, and that falls into the exact sequence of all of the others. What I'll do is I'll run through that whole sequence very quickly now, just for anyone who hasn't seen it, because most of my subscribers have seen it and it's caused lots of comments and it's been the kind of backbone of what I've been talking about. So I should just put a very brief, and if anyone wants to see the whole thing, then you can go and see. I'll put a link to the original film, but just run through this very quickly.
just moves with it the whole way. There's the ocean below.
That's no freaking airplane. December 24th, 2015. Central Indiana. This is Becky Lewis. Oh my freaking God. Are you kidding me? Let me tell you, that is no freaking airplane. That's in the southeast, where I always get the red glow. Holy God. Oh my gosh.
You can see that going down. It's not the sun, it's not the moon, it's a blue object, a celestial object going down in the sky. You can see that, guys. Absolutely amazing footage. You can see that now, guys. It's coming up to 10:45 It's the 15th of August 2016, and I'm actually viewing with my tripod, with my camera, this celestial object that's illuminating part of the sky. You can see it going down now. You can see that going down now. I'm on a hill. You can see that going down now. Fantastic shot. There's no denying it now, folks. There is no denying this now. No denying. To the right is lens flare. You don't get that with the moon. You can see that going down now, folks. Look at that. That is absolutely fantastic going down. Thank you for viewing, guys. Fantastic. Fantastic. It's time to believe now, guys. Time to believe.
Okay, so hopefully you're kind of up to speed with me now as to where I'm going with this, and let me now just let me just put a few more subscribers' pictures up here before I talk any further. That's going to be really important, because I'm really struggling at the moment with this whole thing, and I don't know how to move forward. You know, I feel so powerless now. You know, this thing is coming around again. It was going to do everything that happened last year, except that this thing is going to be much bigger this year, and that we know a lot more about it. And the fact that the sighting that I said would be quite horrendous last year, which for many people really was horrendous, even though I feel honestly ruled by the lowest common denominator in my country at the moment. I feel that everything I'm talking about is considered really quite special needs. While the earthquakes go off, while the volcanoes go off, Davy's truth is a completely mad truth, and my truth is shared by a growing number of people that are trying to explain anomalies that just climate change cannot touch. There's just too many things going on that it's so much bigger than that now, and so let me just show you this sighting. Let me just take you through a couple of sightings. Okay, so this one was sent in by Ron Delano. It's, you know, it could be lens flares, could be everything, but it's, first thing it's, you know, it's utterly beautiful. It's kind of that Hopi kind of like image, that kind of ancient image that we've kind of always been told it would be and what it would look like, and there it is, this kind of winged planet, this red Kachina and this blue Kachina. You know, it's a breathtaking shot. He says this was taken from a webcam in Greece on June the 17th. I've posted the original photo as well as what the object looks like when I enhance the colours. Best regards. It's beautiful, and thank you for sending me the shot, and please, you know, it's as so many people making these videos, you know, about this, it's just like it's getting the information out there. You know, we're all up against an absolute belief that this is always has been an absolute load of old rubbish, you know, and just crazy prophecies and everything else of that. But suddenly we're getting thousands of sightings of it. We're getting all the massive earth changes that we'd expect of something this size. You know, the flooding that's going on in China is, if you can imagine that, you know, already we have a massive tidal shift going on, and we have these massive oceans acting down on these mantles, and they're constantly massaging the mantle, exerting enormous weight as the oceans move around in accordance to the movements of the moon. So there's this enormous, very subtle movement going on as a result of that massive displacement of oceans all the time. But you can imagine suddenly now you've got this wobble due to this kind of massive other object that's very close to our sun, and it's affecting our axis, and it's giving it a subtle wobble because you have these massive objects that are also spinning around it. So it has this massive moving center, this kind of center of gravitational mass. It's all much smaller than our solar system's gravitational energies, because as I'm understanding it, these objects are very, very dense objects. Our sun is massive, but it's hydrogen going into helium. It's the lightest on the in its atomic density. This thing is supposed to be cesium. You know, it's unbelievably, you know, these are all theories. We don't know. We're trying to work out. It's very difficult to see the main object that all the fun is happening around, because it seems to be protected. And so I just want to show you this second picture that's just been sent to me by Dana Day. Okay, the black object in the center, that's the central point of the sun. That's the hottest point. And everything else around it is just all light being, but that is actually the sun. And everything out is light. And then you can see to the south of it, you can see to the bottom of it, you can see all this other light going around, and then you can see this big, what looks like some kind of rainbow, and then behind that you can see there's a sphere of some sort, and light directly behind that, and this is the main center of the hub, and the big gravitational mass that I've heard called various names. I'm not going to give it a name, other than to say this line along here is actually something on the planet. This is actually a scar on the planet somehow or other. This bit of this is something happening, whether it's a gaseous sphere or whether it's a solid mass or whatever this is inside of this. It seems to be something that's to do with the actual mass. It's not part of the cloud form or anything else like that. There seems to be something on this that causes this effect. The reality is everything we're seeing here is everything that we were very close to in October, November and December last year. That's when we had the biggest point of the storm, and we've just watched this thing steadily move out. And the sighting that I showed 100 days after Becky Lewis's footage on the 20th of December, which was the first time it had appeared in the 100-day point. Always 200 days, and then a 100-day point meant that it had moved away from the sun, because we were seeing the other side of its orbit for the first time, and the only way we could see that is if the other side of its orbit was far enough away from the sun. We absolutely knew at that point that Nemesis was leaving the sun, that it was exiting, and there's no way I can get there. I can't see any way of getting around that. And so we come to this point now where are we now?
Remember, if we say this is the same, let's go back to this picture here and see what was a spider web or not. And I'm still saying these are not spider webs. That's the lens reflecting these rings of light that I've seen, and even older videos of mine. Look very carefully. See what an even break. What kind of spider web would that be? Yeah, and at first glance, yeah, spider kind of web. Yeah. You guys got to let go of that. You got it. This thing's coming in, and it ain't going away.
You know, what did I do in England? You know, I kept running for positions in government, trying to show that if we engage, you know, I've done that since 2012. You know, everything I say about Europe, I know a lot of people think, oh, you know, he was pro-Europe and that sort of stuff, and you know, they've just divided us all. You know, it was mind control. It was a whole it was a big thing that just went down there, you know, and it's going to divide a lot of us, because a lot of us have now to defend our right to break from Europe. And of course, you know, what we didn't like is the fact that we're all sitting, one thing in common is that we all know that we're being subverted by bankers, that the whole banking system of this fractional reserve system that isn't even based on gold, it's just based on the movement of money, and so the more money you can move, the more money you can print, and this kind of, it's a very dangerous type of economy because it's built totally on hot air. There's no real value there, and so we're all kind of seeing the same thing. We're all seeing the problems in that, and really what we should have done is, in this democratic system that we had in Europe, we should be utilising our ability to access our democratic process by actually voting, and not just sitting it out and then watch really not pleasant people take the whole system over, drive it into the dirt, and then blame the system they've taken over so they can then have greater power over us. And that's just what's happened. That's literally just what's happened. It's left Britain very vulnerable. Everyone's feeling very nervous, as you probably would have noticed. As soon as that vote came in, many of you that voted for that did you feel that feeling? Was it heavy? Did it make you feel, you know, honestly, outside of all the thoughts running through your head as you desperately tried to sway whatever was going on inside here, what did it feel like? Honestly, when that went down, you know, little bare honesty, you don't have to tell anyone else what that felt like. If you're embarrassed by that and you voted the other way and you have to carry that, and if I don't know which side, you know, I can't see how by breaking away from an alliance that is made of a proportionally run system that took such a long time to get in place. But anyway, we can't dwell in the past, and my message to you right now is to make you understand that it is more than known that this was, even for those who sometimes voted for Brexit, this was not your intention to break up Europe, that you want, that we are all of the same really, is that we want transparency, we want fair banking, we want legitimate banking. We don't want to be ripped apart by this system which is all dollars and no cents. This fractional reserve banking system of absolute credit that is tearing the world apart. We all see the same thing there, I think, you know. And we've invested so much time in the story of climate change. It's been so much part of the structure of how we've managed to try and build this kind of picture of how we need to make our world better by not polluting it so much. And climate change is so fundamentally into that Nibiru seems like a total red herring, a total let me just check my power's still going. It seems like a total red herring because it smacks in the face of all of this, but there's just too many geological changes happening, and the sightings right now as we come into that, because we're coming into a breathtaking time that is challenging everyone's beliefs right now. You don't know how to get past that. It's a story that just is just too much. You know, my name is Dirt. If I'm honest, in England right now, my name is Dirt. You know, I can't post on Facebook because my truth is just a truth that's not wanted by really most of my friends, and I'm not expecting people to do that, because before I'd seen it and had the dream where I was shown it, honestly, I would have never believed it myself, and I'd invested so much of my own time into what I saw was the most likeliest story of what was going down, which was corporations driving us into a dependence on an artificial energy just so they could control us and control the currency. And I've totally been with this. Anyway, it all seems so unbelievable, and then I get some really harsh comments. One of the comments I had recently was, all these guys are out for themselves, and that was a real painful comment to read, because other than getting the information out there and trying to show as much evidence as you can, but I'm kind of powerless now, really. You know, I've shouted it out. You know, I am controlled by the lowest common denominator in England, really. You know, the sneerers and the smirkers. You know, I can't post on Facebook anymore. I just can't handle it, you know. And if I can't put myself up there, then, and the things that are going through me, and I just don't feel I can. I haven't got the strength. And so with YouTube, it makes me feel as if I can post things and people can click on them if they wish to. And Facebook is a little bit more in your face. People don't want to know this news. They want to believe a whole nother story. You know, we're allowed the story of terror and everything else like that comes into the news, but this kind of like, this story is a story that most cannot handle, and many people have struggled with it. And I just feel like I've got to go and just walk my talk now. You know, and that's what this is all about. So I'm up in the Pyrenees. And the truth is, I don't want to be in England now. You know, I don't want to be in England because I just don't feel as if I'm... I know this sounds horrible, and it's not personal to my mates or anything else like that, because I'm sure that they can handle me and myself and that sort of stuff. But me and the story that I have right now is too much for most people in England. They don't want to know it. And I've got to respect and honour that as well. And so I have to just leave that as I'm making people feel like I'm some kind of religious evangelist, and I don't want to be like that. You know, I just don't want to do that. You know, I see this massive thing coming in, I shout it out that it would pass on the 21st, and it passed on the 20th last year. But honestly, I am controlled by the lowest common denominator. The venue I had in Glastonbury, I lost that because I'm not cool enough for that space anymore. You know, when I started talking about this, you know, I went from hero to zero, but it was also a worthy offering as well, to let go of all of that. You know, because you know, that wasn't how I didn't get that venue I didn't get that whole space in Glastonbury by being cool. You know, when we sort of like, we claimed that area, You know, we did a free party conference the year after that I ran for government with Jim Bob in Brighton with his free party that he'd set up as a result of first running for government in 1997, and it was a whole sound system that kind of like was turned into a political party because of the criminal justice bill. And Norman Cook came and played for the party, and it was a massive kind of like, and then we all went to the election. On the night of the election, it was just one of those nights that was just absolutely off the radar. But I got to see the election hall for what it was, and it was just an empty room full of TV cameras and no people. And suddenly we took people in there, and in that moment I suddenly realised that they're repulsing and boring us out of our own political arena. That's how they've taken over. That's what they've done with Europe. You end up sort of like, you don't vote in it, you just watch it go downhill. It's like a cancer that eats up in it. You don't deal with it, you don't engage with it, and it just becomes like a rotten limb, and eventually you cut it off. And I couldn't be, what could I do? Could I turn up at Glastonbury and be part of that show? The show that was going to be over the election period, that was going to pull everyone away. It was... So I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't go, you know what I mean? It was just like, I couldn't give myself to that. You know, when I ran for government in the election just before, in Glastonbury, I was running against James Heapy, the main candidate in the Glastonbury area for the Conservative Party, and his name was Heapy, and I was like, is it never trust a hippie or never trust a Heapy? Can you imagine going into churches and asking people what it's like, knowing that this candidate represents David Cameron, who took us into war against Libya? What does that feel like, to invade a sovereign nation that did nothing to us? You know, what does it mean? Especially just, I asked, you know, what did it feel like to have this representative of this man that bombed a nation just after Fukushima? You know, and this video may stay out for just a couple of minutes. Maybe it will just be taken down straight away. I don't know, you know, but each and every one of us will be serving some agenda. A lot of people think I'm serving an agenda and making comments that, and I am serving an agenda. You know, when I spoke to my God, maybe my God is not your God, but when I spoke to my God, I said, when do you step in? And the answer I got, and this wasn't without any ayahuasca, this was locked away up in the mountains on my own, and the answer I got was, I said, when do you step in? And the answer I was given was, at the moment I have both feet in, but if you don't want me, I will take both feet out. That was literally the answer. That was literally the answer I was given. And it is this message that if we do not want divine intervention in this, then we will not have divine intervention. But I've done it. I've done my fair share of it, and I just don't know what to do. You know, like I say, you know, I've kind of done my fair share of it. I've trying to be on this frontier, trying to engage. I don't know the answers, but I do think engaging is always a good thing to do, you know, and try and get involved in the systems and see if you can make them better rather than just destroying them. And I think Europe was an amazing system, and we needed to engage rather than try and get out. And now we're in a vulnerable place. And my message is kind of, it means nothing in England. You know, everything I'm saying, it means nothing in England. I'm just kind of some weirdo talking about something that the consensus cannot believe. You know, in my book I try to persuade people from leaving Europe. And I said that, you know, back in 2012 when I published the book, I said, you know, I had a dream, and it was all about sort of like seeing us come to this juncture of whether we stay in Europe or cut our anchors and go west, and it'll be one or the other. If you're not tied to Europe, then you will be tied to America. This will be all about signing intellectual property deals and trade deals that will tie us into massive contracts with whatever the transatlantic trade and investment partnership really is. We will be tied up within it and to whatever or whoever that contract is truly with. And it's a dangerous contract for us to sign. It's we leave a very safe haven if we do that. And you know, my message to you really is that we haven't done that. It's not really like that. From the perspective of the gods, they don't see it like that. They know it's all mind control. They've divided us all on this issue. We all feel as if we've got to take our sides in it to defend whatever our vote was at that time. And really, we all want the same thing. We want transparency with the banks. We want a fair, legitimate currency, not this bullshit currency that just feeds free money into the bankers, all driven by the massive movement of money. There's no real value there. It's just wild, unregulated banking at its most ruthless, and that's what needed to be sorted out. But we chucked the baby out with the bathwater, as they say. You know, well, we haven't done it yet. It hasn't been signed, and it's not over with yet. By the way, just want you to know that this thing is not as black and white as that, because unfortunately such massive amounts of mind control are being used at the moment. That also has to be taken into consideration. But you are up against your own beliefs here. That is the front line in this. That is the absolute front line in this. I can tell you that all the sightings coming in absolutely show to me without any doubt that this is much further ahead than it was last time we saw it. And this time last year. But I really want you to understand that we are all being subverted in this, and belief is actually our nemesis in itself. This thing is impossible to believe. Our governments and many are just not telling us about this because they are looking after their own ends and their own kin. Now, each of us has our own individual role in this. But I can promise you this, the reason I wrote Laughing Gas was to tell you that you approach a wall and that nothing gets past this that is of war. And, you know, you could do what I'm doing, and I'm trying to do the most logical thing of going to a landmass that is made of granite, which will float if it's as bad as some estimate. You know, if we don't know how long it's going to last, how you know, we could approach it this year, and maybe it's moving that slowly because it really is that heavy. that it's going to take another year after this, but realistically the sightings on the 20th of December, when it was really close, all the earthquakes, volcanoes, the floods in England, the floods in France, the floods all around the world. We had the worst storms we've ever had in history literally last year, and now all that kind of movement under the ocean that was causing the blob in the Pacific, that was making all this moisture and all these big El Niños, has now moving to I think it's moving into the Atlantic now. It's much more moisture is coming up. We are approaching it big, and it's big, it's there, it really is there. It's not just a load of people trying to throw you this kind of like this, you know, it's totally there. It's too many sightings, and it's just you up against your belief system, because you have been led into a story. You're in a story, and the story is all about guilt, it's about blame, and it's about and we've got to come out of this story now and just see what's really happening, what's really going on. These massive sightings of this planet and everything else that's coming in that corroborates that is too big now, and it's a painful thing to make videos about, because you know that people really struggle with you, and struggle with the whole story. So I don't know what to do anymore, other than, you know, my mum is really sick at the moment, really sick, and she's going to have chemo, and she's really struggled with much of my whole Nibiru story as of late, because it's been so much. She's been obviously dealing with her own crisis, let alone seeing some big thing coming in. But you know, she's an incredible channel, and obviously I'd like to get her up here to the mountains where it's safe, and that seems so ridiculous, I know, to so many, that, and to, you know, it's such a balmy thing to think, isn't it, that you could even step out of the way of this. But the truth is that, you know, you have to apply common sense, you know, trust in Allah but tight with camel sort of thing. It's you know, you can see common sense, but doing common sense, you know, there's something massive affecting us. Where's the most logical place to go? And for me, the most logical place to go on when an ocean of basaltic kind of sea starts becoming quite turbulent is something that floats on that. And granite is one of the few things that floats on basalt. It's like a raft. It's like a raft in a tempest, in the most Shakespearean sort of sense of the meaning, anyway. And that's maybe it's not going to be as bad as that, but realistically, with what happened last year, and how much further, you know, it's just been moving closer and closer and closer towards us. It's time, you know, everyone needs to be doing their whole thing, whether I'm going to have to return back to England and see my mum, or whether I'm going to have to get my mum out to here, to the mountains, I don't know. This to me is Mary Magdalene land, and yesterday was Mary Magdalene's Day of Ascension, apparently. And I'm not a Christian in the sense of you know, I don't go to church. Well, I do go to church to hustings every now and then, because most political hustings in England seem to be in churches, which is always quite disturbing. And then these incredibly right-wing characters are so often elected thereafter, using Christ as their means. And so I'm not so interested. I don't want to focus on Christ, especially I don't want to focus on the death of Christ, because so many people focus on his sacrifice and his death. And if I was to look at Christ, I'd like to sort of look a bit more of his story, and his story was very much, you know, involved in this woman that he was in love with, you know, and that for a big part of Christianity is just a whore, you know, is the whore of Babylon, and maybe that's just a little bit of projection from society, really, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because aren't we the whores of Babylon, really? I mean, really? You know, it's kind of like it's kind of a reflection, isn't it? So I'd like to focus a little bit more on not on the story of Jesus when I'm up here, but actually, you know, in some of my videos now, because people are so nervous about the Nibiru and the story, to come back to a bigger picture, and maybe come out of that story, but maybe stay with that story a little bit. Come out of the story of Jesus a little bit more, and come more into sort of like into the unity of him and her. Come into her story for a little bit, not history, but her story. Try and break away from this religious belief that is binding you so solid, that can bring you into states of anger. And you know, just remember that John the Baptist simply poured water over people's heads, you know, to wash away all this kind of crazy thoughts and this belief. You know, it comes back to that old thing: is your glass full or empty? You know, empty your glass a little bit. Just come out of the story, and I'm not saying believe Nibiru, but at least consider the evidence without that smirker and that sneerer. At the moment, my whole image and my entire reputation in England is ruled by smirkers and sneerers. You know, I'm not wanted in England, really. I don't feel wanted. If people accommodate me, it's without my Nibiru story, and it's without what's going on for me and the core of what's happening and the message that's coming in for me, which means they don't want me, and I don't take that personally. It must be a pretty heavy story. But at the same time, this thing effectively is God. That's what it is. Because only the power of God can get you through this. Only the most almighty power. And for that reason, I can tell you, you can try and save yourself in this, but you are barking up the wrong tree, because this thing is the nemesis of everything that is of war and everything that is in only self-service. I can promise you, your greatest opportunity of dealing with this is being the best person you can and trying to help other people. And my purpose of coming up here is just to be a wayfinder for people that are just trying to work out where to go. Because you've got to be a little bit logical. You have to apply common sense here. You can't be King Canute and try and pretend that you can stop this tide of change. This is a massive planetary body that you can see countless testimonials that is up there. It is going to fly very close to Earth. It is going to have an enormous effect on our oceans. It already is having a massive effect on our oceans, and it's still a very, very long way away.
So we got Santos, the city you're watching right now. The tsunami that, you know, just came into the city, destroyed part of its coastline, killed a lot of people. But the thing is that this is gonna start happening a lot now.
I can't make people believe. I can't you know, I'm kind of dealing with my own hell, just watching my own mum having to deal with that, and knowing that she's struggling with this story. Do I go back to England? I'm up here, and my own mother's sick in England, but she can't handle my story right now, to be honest with you, and she doesn't need that right now. She just needs healing and time and space, you know, and she needs miracles, and this is the land of miracles. You know, this is Mary Magdalene land. This is where she came. When the shit hit the fan, this is where she came. If it was good enough for her. You know, I'm up here because I'm that's why it showed me Europe, because that's not a done deal. That was a whole mind control thing, and that, in the eyes of my God, does not count. You ultimately have final choice, because this is about the individual. You know, you have to understand that this whole process is not going to be counted like that. In the eyes of the perspective that I'm understanding, this will still be done by the individual. You will decide. It will not be that decides which is your God. In your own hearts you will decide whether you want to go with this absolute religious belief and just fill your house with this onward Christian soldiers. No, it's the first thing that happened. As soon as Britain left, you know, as soon as Theresa May came in, the first thing she did was she signed the Trident deal to make sure the message is crystal clear that this country, or that Britain is of, not this country, but Britain is of war. You know, it is of an aggressive stance with toxic, dangerous weapons that mean you give us what you want or we will bomb you. That is our message. That was the message of Britain when we went into Iraq. It was that they had the intelligence to build, to send them, you know, the 15-minute warning that they could get a missile to us. It wasn't that they could attack us. It was that they were intelligent enough to do it. And we put the same message out there with the Trident message. It is an aggressive stance, and that is the footing that this all sits on, unfortunately. And nothing gets past nemesis that is of war. and your belief systems don't allow you to get through. But I promise you, your belief systems are about to be absolutely smashed to bits. You know, and you're going to see how strong your beliefs. You're going to really try to believe everything you can, that I'm a total idiot, that I'm a total fraud, that this thing isn't coming through, that all the shills and everyone else there that saying that, oh, you know, I'm just like, I'm putting out bullshit, this didn't pass last year. You know, I showed all the footage of this thing passing, I've showed all the footage so far. You know, you are going to throw your absolute beliefs at this, and you are going to fight the war of belief in your own system. That's all that is crumbling now. It's just your story that is falling apart. It is an old third and fourth dimension reality that is dying. That's all it is. And there's a much bigger picture unfolding, and it's much bigger than this story of war, and this story of aggression, and this story of terror. But it is nemesis, and it is a nemesis to so much of the old way. And it's coming through, and it sits like a bull ahead of us on Earth's train tracks. It is, for all intensive purposes, Shiva. It's, you know, our governments are the most scared of this, believe it or not, because it is their agendas that are most threatened by this, because it is their stance. And they could change their stance, they could change their minds so much, because it is understood. They too are being subverted. They believe they are their thoughts. They believe that they believe the lies that they are being fed by those that are offering them all this intellectual property in exchange. But they offer their own domination in this, and thus are subverted from the very onset by the contract. It's the same deal that was offered last time, and those that offer this deal lose the most sovereignty in this. Yet we are our own worst enemies if we serve only self right now. And so if you think I'm out here serving self and that sort of stuff, then, you know, judge everyone as you wish to be judged. That's all I can tell you. Think of me as you want. Think of me as the lowest piece of shit, because I'm willing to talk my truth about this. You know, I've lost my venue at Glastonbury. That festival was used as a mechanism to destroy Europe. I could not be a part of that, you know, and it's a story that we just don't want to see. And it's a story that if we put our heads in the sand over it, and we don't deal with it, then maybe that's the best way of dealing with it. Everyone's got to do their own way. Everyone's got to choose to see this in their own way. You know, maybe I am wrong here. I'll put my hands up to that. And maybe I am wrong here. Maybe I need to, I don't know what message I see when you see something like this coming in and you see all the evidence and everything says get to high ground and don't try and be King Canute. Understand you've got to be pretty sensible with this. You know, you can try and throw your beliefs on it that it's not coming in, but and you know, I just don't know what else to say or do now. I'm all out of options. I'm all out of options. You know, I've just got to deal with trying to get my mum out here, because I think this is the most healing place that she could come. She has a terminal condition that I think only a miracle can save her from. And the irony. You know, how do I get my mum out here? Because I think that she could get the miracle that she needs here from the springs of the Mary Magdalene well. And I think some of you could do with washing your heads in that spring and coming out of that story now. You won't have much longer now, because it's entering our night sky. And so when it enters our night sky, those that are out to save themselves will serve themselves, and they will go where they go on the journey that they need to go on. And those who go to high ground and try to make it available for other people to come and try and find places for them to come and things for them to do and try and open up opportunities will do whatever they do. You know, I am not working for any private cabal. You know, and I had to come into this when all those who started shouting about this in 2012, you know, I never took the piss out of them, and I see every one of those people as correct and right in everything that they did. I have never belittled one of those people, and I never will. The press hyped it up, and Fukushima occurred in 2011. They were absolutely correct. We're too cool for the truth. We're too cool because we don't like looking at the depleted uranium our governments dump, and yet we just go and vote and put the Queen in total power, the very person who, the biggest business who perpetrates that. So all those people that sort of like make the videos out there, you know, the Nibiru watchers, Nibiru watcher, Jeff. There's loads of them. Chris Potter, hero. But anyway, all the people out there that talk your truth against the absolute bombardment of haters that just try and bring the small channels down, the small people that are talking the truth. And I've got no advertising on my channel. You know, I'm not wanted in England right now. You're not ready for me, and I can't be some kind of evangelical kind of like pushing this thing on you. So I just make these videos and put them up on YouTube, and there's nothing else I can do. What else can I do? Nothing. I'm too mad for you guys. My truth is too mad for you. You know, it's a truth that doesn't fit into your story because that's the way it is. But you know, we all take our time to get there, one way or the other, and one way or another. I can promise you, most of you will go. You'll separate with your beliefs. You know, it'll be kicking and screaming. You won't become your beliefs, but some of you, unfortunately, will become your beliefs, and that's going to be a bit messy.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
Well, a child's happiness is priceless, right? Especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday. A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on their birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially when it comes to their birthday.
Absolutely.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday. A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
Well, a child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's smile is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
You know, a child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
Okay, I won't continue on, but you get the point. It doesn't matter which channel it is, what news organization it is, whether it's one of the big networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, or Fox. They all have the exact same script.